A Community Arts Network WA production, Northbridge, a meeting place, produced for the City of Perth with the assistance of Northbridge's Noongar Patrol and Noongar Radio.
There's no Perth without Northbridge. Without Northbridge, there's no Perth. You can't call Perth without Northbridge. This is life.
Yeah, it's good, eh? Northbridge is wicked. It's good to be around, and it's good to do things what you got to do, and it's awesome.
Awesome Northbridge, a very special part of Perth for Noongars. They've known Northbridge long before it got its present name, and long before Wadjulas gave it that name. Today it's a suburb with great restaurants, lively entertainment and nightlife well into the night. And we'll go right there soon with the Noongar Patrol and meet some young people with strong views about Northbridge. As I said, Northbridge has been around for a long time. But Steve Kinane can take us back to a time well before nightclubs and flash cafes, right back to a time when Wadjula settlers had only just arrived in Western Australia. Those days, the city of Perth wasn't even a city.
If you look at the Perth Gazette of 1834 comes to mind, you see large numbers of Aboriginal people congregating on Perth because it's a traditional meeting place for many. There was an oakum mine, there were places and shallows where people would go and harvest freshwater species of fish and a whole range of things. The early colonists are constantly talking about, we're sick and tired of these people coming in and dancing and keeping us up all night and carousing, and then there's all these other activities we don't even know what they're doing, but we don't like it. So right from the start you see with this contested space of the swampy land of Perth, which of course is a filigree of underground streams that link up a whole range of mythologies and sites of resource use, and Hyde Park, as I believe, actually putting young boys through the law. So, very significant sites.
Northbridge is all right, but I don't like the policeman. You sit down quite on your own, the policeman pull on you. And I said, what you got there? And you see all these white people walk around drunk, swearing, cursing. They're running amok, and we don't say nothing. They decided to give us a move-on notice. The paper.
Up until the 30s, my grandmother used to catch quite a few ducks during the Depression. So when a lot of people needed to get out of the puppeted area and they'd gravitate towards Nana's, might be a card game, might even just need a place to sleep. As is often the case, the mattresses would be brought out. People needed to be fed, so she'd head over to Hyde Park with a fishing line and a bit of bread, grab herself a duck, quickly wring its neck, maybe 2 or 3, take them back. Mum would pluck them and cook them up.
We used to have bush dances around on the riverbank, on the old bush camps. And then, someone would play accordion. I think it's old Bill Bodney, and he's passed. I remember old Bill, he used to sit on the white seat. Used to be a white seat there in Perth. He used to sit there all day, old Bill Bodney with his walking stick.
An interesting point, just as an aside, is that Bill Bodney actually wasn't Aboriginal. He was actually African. He'd married into a Noongar family. His mother was seen and is recorded in the records of the Swan Native and Half-Caste Mission as Zulu. And the story is that she was actually a cook on a whaling ship that had landed in Rockingham, and she had a child while in passage. And he was handed over to be raised by a white couple who were very happy to have him, who were living in Rockingham, a British couple. When they left to return to England, they wanted to take him with them. But by that point, the Aborigines Department and the various forms coming from the 1897 Act had kicked in. And so in going through immigration, his blackness was immediately identified as coming under the Aborigines Protection Act. And so they had no choice but to leave him behind. He was then interred in Swan Native and Half-Caste Mission, and he essentially was then raised up with Aboriginal people. He could have at any time said, well, I'm not really Aboriginal, I'm African, but he was very much part of that community. And then in his working life, he was known to go out into some very serious Noongar territory, out in the wheat belt, Calabaran and places like that, where law and language was still very seriously practiced. And through that, he gained a lot of knowledge. So he's seen as a Noongar leader because he actually held a lot of Noongar knowledge, and if you like, as a custodian, he fulfilled that role. But he wasn't actually Aboriginal.
We used to have Culver League dances. You heard about the Culver League? Culver League is named after Magpie Coolbody. Well, I used to go in there as a young fella. We had to be there, have a special pass to go there, be in town.
I think initially it started up quite simply as people wanting to have something of their own. The idea was quite simply to have a social venue for Aboriginal people in the city, because at the time the prohibited area was still operating in Perth and people weren't allowed into pubs.
There was a bloke called Jeff Arkers. He was a white fella. He was a returned soldier. He was the one started up, and he got some other white people who came in there, you know. Their heart was with us.
The very early meeting that took place between Jack and his brother George Polland, and of course these were two returned servicemen who'd just come back from the Second World War, and they were having difficulties being able to go in pubs with men who they'd fought in the Second World War with. And so the idea was not to only have access to places like that for men who'd fought in the war, because some servicemen did get served in pubs or they got conditional citizenship. The idea was to have a place for everyone to go.
Well, it brought us all together, and we enjoyed ourselves there, looking back at those old photos.
The things that were working against it were, obviously there was a prohibited area that operated in Perth from 1927 through to 1954. So when it began in 1948, they were painfully aware of this. The first dance was a flop because practically no one turned up because it was a prohibited area. So fortunately East Perth was just outside the prohibited area and they were able to obtain a hall.
One started off here in East Perth, just near that Royal Street. Was an open-air theatre there too, back in 1940s, I remember back. My brother-in-law come back from the war and he was locked up for being in town after 6 o'clock. Full uniform. My brother-in-law died on the reserve in 1952. We only had a memorial service for him a couple of years ago at the Fremantle Cemetery. Then we went across to that place they call the Castle down here. That was used too in 1950. I remember going there for the dances. Police used to patrol around there. And then we went down to William Street. Went upstairs there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
I'm in love with a soldier boy. He's been redeployed to defend my heart from all other boys, my wartime honey and me.
During the war years, there's also some amazing stuff within the Coolbrook League file that shows the level of police surveillance was quite severe.
Police used to patrol around there while we were having our dances in 1948. We were just enjoying ourselves. Oh, if you were caught with grog, you were gone, locked up. Even the smell.
And in particular when the club got going, or the league got going, the league dances, they show an increase in arrest rates that goes through the roof in East Perth because there's just such a focus on this large number of Aboriginal people. Sometimes, and some of the newspaper reports show up to 300 or more people congregating in a hall in East Perth.
Waltzing the wheeler out tonight, billion stars of candlelight, dancing shadows, silver blue, golden sunrise comes too soon.
Oh, that was great. They'd all dress up, iron their clothes out, Oh, look forward to Friday night or Saturday night, all dressed up. Oh, the women were painted up. Oh.
There's a heart with a shadow tonight.
The late Ronnie Kickett used to play the drums. One bloke used to play the saxophone, and then the guitars came in after. Because a lot of Noongars can play guitar, you know. They pick it up by ear. Maybe all we had our own black singers. Gladys Brofer, she passed away now. She was like Whoopi Goldberg, you know. She had a beautiful voice, sing, figure.
Well, that was Northbridge in the 1940s and 1950s and even earlier. But now in 2011, it's walked the same streets.
Do you catch up with a lot of your friends when you come in?
Yeah, I meet up every week with them. I come into town for that special reason. The one reason everybody comes here to the Piazza, to meet up, sit down with friends and family. It's a good place, Northbridge, beautiful. Before this was here, used to be old food hall. There was just some parks and that there where people used to congregate together. But since they've knocked down the old food hall where the site used to be here, they've opened up a whole new, environment for people to come and congregate, mix, meet new people.
They're all against each other. Aboriginals, whites and Chinese. And because we're all young, you think that we'd all be able to get along. And there's always violence in the streets.
So now it's worse than what it was before?
It has. You'd see, especially with a lot of the Aboriginal people, they go around bullying and picking and humiliating a lot of people. And because with the Aboriginal group, they come in a group, they don't come in one and two. And you see a lot of young Aboriginal boys mobbing an innocent African or an innocent drunken person that just came back from the nightclub or something. But you always see if it's not just an Aboriginal race, it could be another person that does it, but they tend to pick on a lot of the innocent people that come from the nightclubs. And this is what it's all about, the scenery about clubbing. And these young guys, they come in
should be safer for kids that could come here and have tea with their mothers and fathers, but they can't sit here because there's too much violence.
Yeah.
You know, they said Northbridge should be for place for families. They could come in at the restaurants and have tea.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
You get people walking around occasionally sniffing in front of people within who are eating, and it's wrong. People swearing and cursing, maybe walking past them and smoking, asking people for cigarettes, asking them for money.
A lot of things need to be changed. Violence,
if you're not over the age, I think you shouldn't be able to come into the city because you get a lot of 10, 9, 12, 13-year-olds walking the streets these days. And fair enough, there's JAG, but they shouldn't be in the streets.
But there's one person who has helped young people from way back. That's Mingley McGlade, and she knows Northbridge well.
We were busy with legal and medical and health and all that, but then probably the 90s, late 90s at that I'd say, when Aboriginal children, quite young, were coming and flooding into the Northbridge area, the bright lights. And that was their way out, their outing out, because their parents were either out somewhere else or whatever. 10-year-olds are out on the street. Sometimes home wasn't such a good place to be in. That's why they were in Northbridge, and they were unsupervised. And see, the Aboriginality of Aboriginal children being allowed a lot of freedom is something that happened a lot in the old society. But once they became a certain age, they then had to abide by laws and rules. So the bad hangover was being suburban more than anything else and still carrying on that freedom, but not having anyone really responsible to say, now you're growing up, you've got to do it this way, and you have to go to school. That seemed to be a major breakdown. And as for entertainment, the kids have never really ever had centres where they could go to and play basketball, other sports, just get together, have fun sessions, dances and those sorts of things, and underage ones where there was no alcohol served. We could never get a centre going for them. We tried, but it would have been ideal, and instead of them wandering off, and keep the kids there, just take them out for excursions, and they never seemed to be able to come to those sorts of having continuous places where the kids could go. And if they wanted to go to the city and see the city lights, it would have been ideal to have something at the Advancement Council. And that didn't happen, so they ended up then recently of having curfews, and because they got into trouble and they were too young. I mean, what they do when they go to town, they don't go to town with plans. It just happens if they meet someone who's got some smoke, dope or alcohol, they'll have a bit of this and a bit of that, and of course they get noisy and rowdy and laugh and giggle and get into trouble, all because the police see them and can target them and identify them easily. It's been nothing but trouble.
You got to be wary out here. I don't know about you, I know any other time I'm with my family, but I come myself today. Don't feel safe, but that's Northbridge. You can't feel safe in Northbridge. I normally stick to Fremantle, but I came here for sus of all the uncivilised people, but most of them are alright.
I'm 24 now, I'm a mum, I've got 3 kids, but when I was young, I was used to be in here like Thursday, Friday and Saturday every time. And from then, it was better then, when I was coming in here. It was heaps better. But now it's settled down a bit. There's more police, which is good in here. Yeah, but from when I used to come in, it was way better.
And do you bring your kids in
No,
here?
nah.
Not at all. Not
I
much.
wouldn't want them to come here when they're teenagers anyway.
Before, there was also a lot of street prostitutes, white and black. And in the 90s, we were always in Russell Square talking to girls and seeing that they were a bit safe, and not that we approve of it, but that was their lifestyle. And there were some family members, particularly, that my partner at the time was always looking for and looking out for. And they were the older ones. They weren't young, very, 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 really, really young. They weren't teenagers. But that used to go on, and of course the young ones started to float around there and gravitate to the area and sit down in circles with their families and drink and make a noise, and then they'd get moved on by the police. They might have been really not fighting so much, more laughing and joking, but the police would come and tell them to move on. They couldn't even sit in Russell Square. And then, of course, later on, the teenagers have come to town by themselves and just wandered around in groups, and the patrol have had to deal with them.
I'm Danny Miller. I work for the Noongar Patrol, Senior Supervisor. Each Friday and Saturday night we mediate with the youth and interact with other agencies in the Northbridge project. The police, DCP and other agencies we interact with. Our main priority is the youth at night. A lot of our youth get into trouble in Northbridge. Mediation, stop feeding, or try to stop feeding, keep kids from entering the criminal system, and with the police transporting and mediating with all the kids. The juvenile age group deal with kids under 15. We interact with them by taking kids home. We're helping them out, transport them to different locations all over Perth.
My name's Malcolm. I'm one of the workers with the patrol. Drugs and alcohol, one of the biggest problems here. The groups, they do get in, the larger groups. A lot of them probably run by older persons that sort of lead them in that direction, younger people. In my time, we never had this when we was on the streets. It's good to be there for the young kids and try to give them a bit of encouragement what we've had in life.
The kids' age group now be in our generation. Our kids are probably the same age as theirs. If we can make a difference, we get something out of it. Knowing that, we can put up with the job, I suppose.
Well, look, we get not good feedback. Kids are looking for respect, and they can't get it from home, from their families. And we've shown that not only through work that we're there for the kids, that any other time that they need our help, we'll try to assist them in any way.
Yeah, kids appreciate it and we earn their respect, so they normally don't fight in front of us. If the kids do fight, they'll rather fight away from, out of our sight, but we tend to follow them, and therefore it keeps it to a minimum. We always make ourselves visible and available to all clients, adults and the juveniles, but juveniles are our priorities on the weekends.
There's a lot of gang fights. Young kids get caught up in disputes and plus drugs and alcohol. It's the dangers of Northbridge itself being here. There's a lot of issues out there on the streets.
It's a long night there.
Sure is, but it's worthwhile, you know. I think there's nothing better than to see a kid getting home to a safe place to their home and family, you know, to the loved ones.
Wanted to see what it's really like to work for Noongar Patrol. I worked a lot with kids, outcare, education department, because we worked through outcare with a lot of homeless kids, DCP kids, and it was very eye-opening. You know, we live in society, we look at people walking on the streets and think, you know, they're just people. They're, you know, like, look at those people. But when you actually work, it's a lot of difference. You see the grassroots of everything. And it's wonderful. And you have to be proud of where you are to work here.
How do you feel about Noongar Patrol?
They let them off too easily.
Well, I reckon it's great for like young ones if they're stuck in here and
easily.
they'll give them a ride home or something, and so they don't have to walk or steal a car, for instance. And
I would have locked them up in crisis care and then maybe in the morning took them to DCP and done something with their background. Because every night they get the same little teenagers hanging around, they're picking them up.
Well, in the 90s, we used to just see them, like in the 70s, we used to see the families across from the Advancement Council just sitting around. They'd be eating and perhaps some would be drinking, and sometimes some drinkers would be on their own. But in the 90s in Russell Square in the evenings, families would be there. Some may be having a drink, but they'd be eating, and the kids would be running around laughing and playing, and it was seemed to be their social outing, you know.
They do get in trouble by the police, but everybody else does. Like, you know, they do something wrong, then, you know, they got to suffer the consequences, and, you know, you get locked up and stuff, but it happens. As long as you get out and start a brand new day. Like, I've been in and out, and it's not good, you know. But now I'm out. I've never been in for at least a long time. Yeah, but it's good.
I think in 2011, it reminds me of in the 1990s, late 90s into the early 21st century, we saw this thing called Operation Sweep that started up in Northbridge. And it was largely aimed at young Aboriginal people who were on the streets at night and seen as being a menace by shopkeepers and various others. And, you know, I don't want to see anyone too young on the streets, black or white, to be honest. The idea was that it was targeted at anyone, but it was clearly targeted at young Aboriginal youth. And the idea was that there would be a curfew after which people would be taken back to their families or held in custody, which of course is completely against every recommendation of the Royal Commission into Aboriginal Deaths in Custody and repeated inquiries about what you don't do if you're trying to not to engage young people in the justice system. Of course, what happened was it became an absolute beacon for young people. I remember being in the train station in Perth one night around midnight and just seeing tons of Noongar kids running across the tracks with coppers chasing them, because once again it sets up this tension. People don't allow people room to claim, own, enjoy their connections with a place.
And I really haven't got a lot of bad things to say about the police today. I believe there's a lot of rascals and people, they get hyped up if they're chasing someone. I mean, it's not like the 90s as car chases either. But there's some police who are really, I think racism is entrenched, ingrained, institutionalised. But, you know, there are two sides to the story. But when you don't have power, you're not on the power side, you can't do anything about it. You just have to go or you get arrested. So the life that families, when coming in the early 90s and into Russell Square, sitting around, not really doing much harm. As I saw it, I noticed it. I used to go there and sit down and talk to people or walk around like I've done in Kununurra. We sit in the park. You know, the group we might be sitting with women and they're not drinking, and if any drunk comes along, they say, go away. Don't come near us, we're not drinking. You go drink over there. And I see that similarity, you know.
There's not much violence, which is good.
And now
They
you
were
can
fighting.
see different race, like you can see different people here. There's not so much all Aboriginals, there's like all different people.
You can see Muslims, Africans, there's mixed racial
It's
people
good to
around.
see all different people here instead of just that one. A lot of the time they think they own Northbridge, I think they own the street. I could say it's changed a lot since I was coming here when I was a teenager. It looks better. On the news you see nothing but young Aboriginals bashing old people and young people, and it's not right. It makes other Aboriginals, like good Aboriginals, make them look bad, because you might be a good Aboriginal, and because you're Aboriginal, what bad Aboriginals done, it makes them think that you're like that.
May you never feel like I do, the deepest, darkest blue, with the cold wind of fate across my back. May you never feel like I feel, the coldest, hardest steel, running like a blade across my heart. May your love never grow old, may your words never grow cold, may you sing the song and love the love you love. May the words in your heart light the seas, light the dark, as you dream the dream and love the love you love.
Let your life be full of loving, let your loving be full of life. Let the bad times make the good times shine like gold.
A Community Arts Network WA production, Northbridge, A Meeting Place, was produced for the City of Perth with the assistance of Northbridge's Noongar Patrol and Noongar Radio. Community Arts Network's Sian Brown and broadcaster Bill Bunbury interviewed young people, elders Ben Taylor and Mingley McGlade, and author and academic Stephen Kinane. Those taking part from the Noongar Patrol, Malcolm Brown, Danny Miller, Cheryl Hayden, Greg O'Donnell, Deb Wilkes, Ivan Trimmer, Gabriel Yapo, and community members Adrian John Sheckler, Sherry Ma, Kyan Ma, Christine Beasley, T Champion, Sheldon Ryder, Daryl Miller, Timmy MacArthur.
Waltzing the wheeler out tonight, billion stars of candlelight, dancing shadows, silver blue, golden sunrise comes too soon.
Featured music included songs from Waltzing the Willerer, a music theatre work presented by Yiriyarkan Theatre Company, written by multi-award winning playwright and composer David Milroy, Shadow Heart, Soldier Boy, Waltzing the Willerer. You also heard Philip Wally Stack, his songs Fire Dancer and Strong, the Dance Mix. I'm Wayne Binder from 100.9 FM Noongar Radio.